Hello and welcome to Innovating Business. My name is Luke Bonner. I'm the Senior Economic Development Advisor for the City of Sterling Heights. Thanks for joining us on TV, and also thanks for listening in on the podcast. Today we're joined with Matt Loria, Partner and CEO of Auxiom, the gold standard in business IT. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
So tell us about Auxiom. First of all, what's in a name? Auxiom. How did that come about?
Well, first of all, I cannot claim that I came up with the name. My business partner, Dan Mayer, who is also the brains of the operation, he's the Chief Technology Officer, he came up with the name. You take AU is the chemical symbol for gold, and the word axiom, which is in definition a rule or something known to be true, and so that's gold and rule, so golden rule. So we are treating our clients, treating our employees, treating our actually even outgoing vendors as we would want to be treated.
Tell us about how Auxiom came together. Give us the grassroots story of how you started.
Actually, I owned another company with a few partners, and I think somewhere along the way I must have complained enough about IT that I became one of the people having to deal with it. And that meant that we had hired outsourced firms or managed service providers of IT to work for us and to provide that service of being our outsourced IT department. And I was very frustrated. I never seemed to quite get it right with the right fit. And as I was leaving, I said, I'm going to go start an IT managed services company because that was the one vendor that we could never find that really fit us well. And so at the same time that I was leaving, my current partner, Dan, had contacted me and said, hey, Matt, you know, I was your customer when I was at Plant Moran. I've since moved on and I've started my own IT services firm. Could I help you guys? And I said, I don't know. And he said, could you help me maybe grow the company, introduce me to some folks? And when he told me about Auxiom and what it meant to him and how he wanted to help other people by way of performing good IT services, I said, Dan, that whole golden rule piece really ties in. I just wanted somebody to treat my IT the way I wanted it to be treated. And so after some due diligence, came together and joined forces.
So tell me services that Auxiom provides in managed IT. So what would managed IT mean to people? And then what kind of services are you actually providing?
Okay, so managed IT services is one of the areas of business that we do. We do three. We do managed IT, we do managed security, and we do compliance work. And I'll give you a little touch on each of them. The managed IT is an outsourcing of your IT department. So many companies are not necessarily big enough to want to have the internal staff of IT, and with the complexities of IT being hardware, software, security, databases, applications, operating systems, all the different pieces of it, it's very hard to have just one person in charge of IT for a small company. That's why you see large companies have multiple people, sometimes hundreds of people that are in their IT department. And so by outsourcing IT for a small or medium-sized company, which we consider anyone who has 10 to 300 computers, kind of fits in our world, they can have the best of both worlds of having a highly available staff to be able to attend to their needs, but also have a very wide staff in terms of someone who has expertise in all the different areas of IT, rather than relying on just one person.
How much of the services that you're providing are cloud-based versus sort of hardware-based, and how much is there more of a shift going to cloud-based, or is it coming back to hardware-based? Sort of what's the composition there?
Yeah, interesting question. It's split, and I don't know if it's let's call it 50-50-50. Some people are in businesses that really they desire to have data sitting at their facility. So they go with an on-premise type of server environment. Other folks want the mobility and ability to be able to access their data from anywhere, and so they go to the cloud. And then there's many that are in the hybrid situation. And what we what we watch for in those situations is how are you going to access the data? Because if you don't have the right connections to get to the cloud, then the cloud might be a bottleneck for you. Certainly in areas like email, we highly recommend cloud, because the clouds for email have been vetted very well. They're very structured. There's great security products to layer on top of them to make sure that it's secured. And email for all of us is something that we all expect to have on our phone, on our computer, at home. We want that access all the time, anywhere. And it's not typically very data intensive. Most people aren't pulling down huge files from their email all day, all the time. And so that's why email is a likely component to be put into the cloud versus like some of your computing, that if you were doing heavy duty engineering drawings, you might not want to have everything on the cloud, because you'd have to have quite an internet connection in order to be pulling that stuff back and forth.
Lots of storage.
Exactly, exactly.
You work with small companies mostly, which, you know, that's still big companies to most people. What are the most susceptible pain points that you're seeing for a lot of your companies? And does it vary between what kind of industry they're in, or is it just, you know, everybody has been sort of hit with the same kinds of stuff? And how are you generally preventing those things?
Good questions. So in general, the smaller businesses are not necessarily victims of targeted attacks where someone is saying, I'm going after Luke Bonner's business specifically. It's more of what we consider broad-based attacks, which you consider as more of like a pulsing. Okay, it's the bad guy putting out a wave basically that is looking for the weak links, and once they find those weak links, then they exploit them. But they're not specifically targeting those folks. Unfortunately, in the small and medium-sized companies, we are finding that the typical business owner is trusting someone who might just be just this much smarter than him or her with regard to IT, and they're fully entrusting the keys to the kingdom to that person, whether that's an internal IT person, family member, or an outsourced company like ours. And what we're finding is that the typical scenario is that no one's checking up to make sure all of the security protocols are in place and making sure that they're consistently updated. And so two things. One would be that updates are not happening correctly, or patches, as you might have heard them called. And two, just incorrect setups to begin with. So we will go into prospective clients, and we will find in about 90%, that's my estimated number here, is that the network switch, the firewalls in some cases, but key network equipment will have default passwords from the manufacturer still on them, which means all I have to do is walk into that server room, look at the unit that it is, Google that name and put admin password in that Google search, and it'll tell me it's admin and password 1, and I'm in. And right there, that tells you that unfortunately, in the world of IT, there's a couple things lacking. One thing is there's no electrical code. As you know, the building inspector here in Sterling Heights, when he goes into a new construction or a renovation, he's saying, you know, who did this work?
Right.
And let's check the boxes and make sure that it was done right. He's checking all the plugs. He's doing all that stuff. There's none of that, and we don't see that in our world. And so something that we've brought into the service mix is that we do an audit on ourselves, either every month or every quarter, depending on the client. And it's a 150-point check against ourselves, and then we welcome in a security auditing firm as well to look over what we're doing. And there's reason behind that. I would much rather have the good guy find my problems before the bad guy finds my problems. Right. So if I was working with you, I would bring in that third party and say, okay, now that we've got you up to snuff, we think we've got everything right, let's have it tested, let's validate it. If we find any problems, let's fix them before bad guy finds them.
So clear benefit for anyone that's working with you, knowing how far you guys go to constantly audit yourselves.
Absolutely.
To be on the front end of anything security related.
Sure, right. Sure. Because like I said, there's still no 100%, but let's get you as close to that 100% as we can, possibly do. And then when we're checked up on, or you're checked up on, let's make sure we can all say and lay our heads on our pillows at night saying we did everything we could.
Right. Tell us about some of the more dangerous viruses or attacks? I mean, a lot of people talk about ransomware, for example. Maybe
Yeah.
that's one of many, but typically what do you see as one of the more dangerous attacks against your companies, or something that you guys are always preparing for on behalf of your companies?
Sure, sure. So a lot of things that we run into are, someone will call us in because they'll say, hey, I got attacked, can you help me? And a lot of it's ransomware, but a lot of it is also the phishing attacks where it's made to look like an email of something else, whether it's Google or whatever, and they're getting you to put your credentials in. So there's a couple of different things. So on the ransomware side, well, really on both sides, we have to make sure that the users are trained properly to be as savvy as they can to not be the weak link. But the people will always be the weakest link, unfortunately, in cybersecurity, and that's what the criminals basically exploit.
Right. So you guys recently moved to Sterling Heights.
We did.
What was that process like? Why did you pick Sterling Heights? I mean, obviously happy to have you guys here, but
Thank you.
Tell us why you did that.
As you may or may not know, we're located in a building called the DC3S over off of Sterling Ponds. And what we liked about that facility was that it was secure. We could have access to it 24/7, and that the other tenants in the building were like-minded. They're all defense-oriented, and so from our perspective, we're providing defense for small and medium-sized companies. We're also doing some work where we help companies who are actually doing business with the government or defense contractors that need to be NIST compliant.
Okay.
So actually have their security protocols in place for IT so that they can continue to do business with the government.
Sure.
So those were some of the reasons. We really like the space that we're in. We like the location, and it's suiting us well.
How many employees do you have?
We've got 11 employees right now.
Okay. Is that all on-site employees, or does that include on-site or at client locations?
So that includes our actual employees. Now, in the IT world, you bring in some consultants from time to time. So we have a lot of consultancy on the security side, and then also on the cabling side. Okay, so from a standpoint of when we're cabling or mounting something, that's typically one of our partners. But anybody who that is touching any of our client systems is an Auxiom employee.
Okay. So having said that, 11 employees, it sounds like you guys are doing very well. What does the next couple of years look like for you from a business growth perspective?
Yep.
Are you adding employees? Are you hiring people? And so what can we expect from Auxiom over the next couple of years?
We're definitely hiring. We want good people with good moral character, with IT skills to reach out to us for sure.
What skills in particular?
Anyone with server knowledge, anyone with help desk type of experience that does truly enjoy helping other people.
Okay.
Networking, security, really anything.
Okay.
Right now we're expanding in all areas. We also, as I had mentioned, we're kind of operating 3 pillars, and I've mentioned the managed service and some of the compliance with that NIST compliance and some others. The third pillar is our managed service security offering, which is where we're doing a 24/7 monitoring of people's network traffic. And so that's a real way to stop a breach while it's occurring and identify breaches either from internal or external. And so certainly on the security side, we're going to be growing as well. Within the next year, we should more than double in size in employee count, and it could go a little bit beyond that, even with how fast security is growing.
Right. And the need is dire in some instances.
It absolutely is.
Well, this is great. I really appreciate you joining us. I mean, we love having you in Sterling Heights. I'm happy that you're doing well and that you will be growing. Thank you for the feedback and education today on IT that I know I didn't know and perhaps others didn't. So we appreciate having you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was good seeing you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.